Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be doing a different video, which I'll say different. Everyone does these. We're going to be doing a top 10. So I'm going to be counting down my top 10 coasters from 10 to what? Why am I explaining this? Starting off at number 10, we have the classic Black Mamba at Phantasialand in Germany. I almost said Poland. It's not there. This is a very cool coaster. It's got a lot of theming. They took what John Wardley did with Nemesis, and I was going to say made it better, but yeah, it is a very good coaster. It doesn't feel as forceful as Nemesis or even Inferno. I think Inferno is a little bit more intense, but it's still a great ride with some fantastic theming and a very good coaster. I only did it twice though, on the back and on the front, so if I did it a few more times it might move up in the list, it might move down, you never know. Moving on to number 9, we go to Spain and Dragon Khan at Portaventura in Spain. So this is a B&M sit-down coaster, opened in 1995. It's a very intense coaster. Arguably, it is probably the most intense coaster I've ever done. After the main course brake run, going into that loop, that is very intense. The zero G roll is, I'm going to say, it's the best zero G roll in any coaster. The way the train flies through that it's incredible. It's a coaster I don't think many people would put on their top 10 lists, but I really enjoy it. I love a good classic B&M. As you can tell from the first two already. Yeah, very good coaster. If you've not been out to Portaventura, I mean, most people have already now, but go give Dragon Khan a go because I'm sure you'll love it. It's a very good coaster. Moving on to number 8, and that is, what is number? It's Hyperion at Energylandia in Poland. It's a very good Intamin mega coaster, 260 something foot tall, very impressive drop. It's so good. The reason it's not higher, I know people put it higher, the reason it's not higher is because I've had a few rough rides on it, especially on the back wing seats. They're very jolty, shall we say. But on the front row, on those middle seats, this thing is incredible. It might even be the number 1, it's that good, if every row was like that. But no, I was let down by a couple of rides on it, which is why it's knocked down a little bit. Not the best hypercoaster in Europe. That is number 7? Yes, number 7, Shambhala. So we go back to No, we don't. So we go back to Portaventura in Spain for Shambhala, a B&M hypercoaster. It's not quite as tall as Hyperion, but it's got the most airtime on any coaster I think I've done. On the back row, the way you take that drop is incredible. It's quite well paced, considering it's a hyper and it slows down over the hills. Like, it's executed well because you get a lot of floater airtime going over them. The speed hill on the back row, very good. The only problem is I think it might be a little bit too short. I say that, the coasters later on in the list are definitely a lot shorter, and I still prefer them. But it's a very cool coaster, themed to the mountains of Himalayas. That didn't make sense. It's themed to the mountains of the Himalayas. That's what I meant. It's a very good coaster. I feel like I've said that for every coaster, and that's why it's in the top 10. I've done, I think, about 120 coasters. Take that as you will. So at number 6 we go. There's a truck going past. Oh, it's a train, never mind. That's a loud train, Jesus. Number 6 is, of course, Nemesis at Alton Towers. This thing has always been, in fact it used to be my number 1 for ages. Since they retracked it, I don't think the ride is as good as it used to be, but the theming makes up for that, especially with the eye and the new station, the new soundtrack, everything very cool. I just don't like how long the queue is now. You used to be able to just walk into the station and get at least 5 rides before everyone's done 1 ride on Smiler. But yeah, I've always enjoyed this coaster. In fact, there's a picture of it right there on the wall, and I think there's one there, and then you can't see it. There's another one over there. There we go. At number 5 we have another coaster which opened in 2024, although Nemesis is technically third. Anyway, that is Hyperia at Thorpe Park, the UK's best coaster. There's a hint, there'll be no more from the UK on this list. But yeah, this thing, how Mack built something so tall and so fast, but so short, is a bit strange. Like, if you get into the brakes and you do sort of want a bit more, but when you're riding it, it doesn't feel as short as it does off-ride. It's got some of the most insane airtime, the most insane elements. The Outer Bank turn is definitely a highlight. You've got the drop, especially on the back row. You go flying over that thing. Yeah, very good coaster. The UK has finally got another coaster after 30 years, which everyone can rant and rave about. And people are, so they did a great job. Now at number 4 we have a coaster which is very well themed. In fact, it probably is the most themed coaster anywhere in the world, and that is Fly at Fantasyland. Now this is a Vekoma flying coaster that opened in 2021, I think. I've not put the stats on the... It opened sometime, and it's a very, very cool coaster. I mean, if you just think about the fact that Vekoma made a flying coaster that's smooth. 20 years ago, those two, not a great combination. But now, I would happily take that over pretty much any coaster, especially if it's as well themed as Fly is. You enter the steampunk area of Rookborough, and as you go through this tunnel, you hear the music build and build, and then suddenly Fly is presented in front of you with all its theming, and the trains flying around. The soundtrack is incredible. I would like to say it will be number 1, but the ride sort of lets it down. It's a very good ride, don't get me wrong, but if it was a little bit more of an intense ride with, you know, a little bit more happening instead of just sort of meandering around, which is very cool, I feel like it would be sort of higher on the list. But that being said, very good coaster. If you've not ridden Fly, what are you doing, man? Anyway, we move on to the top 3, which even before doing this video, they were all in different orders, but I've had to settle, and at the moment, these are what I would rank them. They could be anywhere, and I would still say, yeah, that's alright. But anyway, number 3 needs no introduction. We're going to Plopsaland in Belgium.
Love tomorrow. Unite forever.
So, Ride to Happiness is... When I stepped off of that train, I was blown away. I mean, I wanted to do this thing for quite a while, and in April of this year I finally got to ride it. It really did not disappoint. I mean, the positives and negative forces on this thing, like, you're pushed into your seat and then the next minute you're flying, you're spinning in every direction, you're launching. Very cool coaster. Plopsaland did very well with this. The theme in the queue is great. The station, brilliant. Could do a little bit more. But this thing, like, it's a very good coaster. It deserves being people's number 1. It deserves, you know, everything everyone's ever said about it, just because it's insane. Anyway, we now move on to the number 2 coaster, which, until filming this video, was actually number 1. But I don't know, something about number 1 and the way it's themed. If this was as themed as number 1, it would be miles higher. But yeah, number 2, we go to Energylandia in Poland. Yes, that's right, Zadra, the RMC Hyper Hybrid coaster, is number 2. Like I said, it would have been number 1, but if it was as themed as what number 1 is, it would just be incredible. But that's not to say the ride isn't themed. It's got a nice area. The station's a bit meh. The queue's a bit boring, especially if you're waiting in it, or not even waiting in it, if you're just walking around it for 15 minutes. But on my first ever ride, I was sat on the very back row, and I sort of knew what to expect, but going over that drop, I just completely forgot that we were going to get pulled over, because I was just that excited to actually be on it. And I've put this clip in on a few different videos before. If I can find it again, I'll put it in. But the way I was blown away by going over that drop, that it instantly became number 1.
Oh my god!
this thing's insane. It's intense. It's got some great airtime. The stall, I think I still prefer it over Hyperia's stall, just because of this you actually feel weightless and power going through it, whereas Hyperia you are sort of just dangling there, which is cool, but I mean this is just a whole league of its own. But on a sunny day, this thing absolutely flies. I mean, even within 5 minutes of your last ride, it's already warmed up twice as quick. Yeah, very cool coaster. But we're going to number 1, which you've all been waiting for. Some of you might have already guessed it. That is Taron at Phantasialand. What can I say about this thing that hasn't already been said? It's a whole themed package. You've got everything. The theming in the area is incredible. But the launches, man. The first launch, I was not really expecting much. You get a good kick on that. But that second launch, oh my god, there is not a launch like that. I mean, I've done Red Force. Taron's second launch feels quicker at the end of it. Just because of the fact you've got all the theming, the rocks. And the sound of that launch, I know Red Force makes a very similar sound, but it echoes through the area. The speed and power you get on that, you get airtime on a launch. Like, you're sort of pinned back but sat up. It's intense, you've got some great airtime, it's paced quite well. The ride is glass smooth, there's not even a single rattle or a jolt or anything. I said this with Fly, but if you've not been to Phantasialand to do both Fly, Taron and the Black Mamba, because they all made it on this list, you're missing out. It's a brilliant park, very well themed, even like the cafes, the toilets, everything's themed, and you can have a day just noticing different details without doing any rides and still enjoy yourself. But anyway, thank you for watching. I've been recording for 25 minutes and it's boiling hot in this room, so I'm going to get off and edit this. Why am I rambling so much? Bye.